Welcome to today's programming tutorial. In today's tutorial, we're going to look at one-dimensional lists or arrays. So, what is a list? A list is a data structure, in other words, a way of organizing data. We already used data structures before. We've used variables to store data. Think of a list as a way of storing multiple pieces of data in one variable. Do we have any other data types that do that? You might have thought of strings, and you'd be correct. Remember, a string is a list of characters. What we're creating today is a list of data. So how does this work? A list uses square brackets to specify the data or the groups of data. Let's create a shop list that stores a few pieces of items: apple, banana, and orange. Notice that we use a square brackets to create the list, and we use a comma to separate the items in the list. Now, here's the fun fact. Everything we learned in string handling applies, or at least most of it applies to this list. What do I mean by that? Well, if we want to get one item in the list, we specify its index in a square bracket. For example, if I print index 0, we get apple. This is because, if you remember, apple will be position 0, banana is position 1, and orange is position 2. If we want to get from apple to banana, we can do from 0 to 2, because remember, it goes from the start position to just before the end position. So we should get apple banana here. We can also use the reverse substring that we learned to reverse the list, like that. Now, what else can we do to this shop list? Well, let's look at some methods. One method we can use is append. We can do shop list.append kiwi, and that will add kiwi to the end of our list. Let's print this out. And let's print this out after we append kiwi. There we go. It's added kiwi to the end. We also have inserts. Inserts allows us to insert an item at a specific point in the list. For example, if we want kiwi to be in the first position of our list, we could put a 1 here with inserts. As you can see, kiwi is now inserted in the first position, and it's pushed everything to the side. Next, what if we want to remove an item from a list? Well, we can use pop to do this. If we leave the brackets in pop empty, it'll remove the first item of the list automatically, by default. But if I specify 1, for example, it should remove the first item in the list, or the first positioned item in the list. There we go. Banana is no more. We can also sort the list, and that will sort a list in alphabetical order. Mind you, let's change it around so it's no longer in alphabetical order to begin with. There we go. It's in the order we showed up there, and then it is sorted into alphabetical order. Lastly, we can actually count the items in our list by using shoplist.count. Let's count the number of oranges there are in the list. If I add another orange over here, we should get 2. Now, we have to print out the count because the count returns a value, whereas the other methods that we use, like sort and insert and pop and append, they are applied to shoplist. We're not outputting anything. So I hope you understand that a list acts the same way as a string does. The difference is that while a string stores a list of individual characters, a list will store data. Now, I mentioned arrays earlier on. What is the difference between lists and arrays? There can be a few differences between lists and arrays, but the most important one to remember is that a list is dynamic in size. In other words, a list can grow or shrink in size. An array is static. In other words, An array is a list that cannot grow or shrink in size. That means that with an array, you have to specify the size of the array at the beginning, and then insert items into the empty slots in an array. Now, Python doesn't really use arrays unless you import a certain library. So we keep to using lists in Python. Now, let's go over one more thing. How do you run through a list to show all the items? I'll put the third index over here to make sense. Well, we can use a for loop to do this because a for loop is a count-controlled iteration. Let's do for index in range 0 to the length of my shop list. The length is 1, 2, 3, 4. And this is going to go from 0 to just before, or not including, the length. I can now print the shop list and specify the index of the shop list. This will go 0, 1, so this will be 0, 1, 2, 3. 0, 1, 2, 3. Because index is added to by 1 every time it repeats. And let's add a 2 dashes over here with our end command. So instead of getting a new line, we get 2 dashes after each output. And we get orange, banana, orange, apple. Awesome. Now that's one way to do things. Let's add a new line over here. And let's use another method. We'll do for item in shop list. Now you might remember this from our string handling, and you can use the exact same method here in the list. So we can print the item which doesn't require the index or the position. Let's have it end with 2 ampersands, and we should see that output over here. Now, believe it or not, there's actually a better way to output everything where you can get both the item and the index. This is using something called enumerate. We're going to specify 2 variables in this special for loop, index and the elements. Remember, these can be named whatever you want. And instead of using in range, we're going to use in enumerate shop list. This special subroutine will run through the shopping list and supply an index and the item. So I can now print out the index and the element, and we'll leave it at a new line over here. See, with that one, I can get the index and the element for every single item. So by using this special for loop over here, you can get both the index and the element. Now, one last little cool thing about shop list. When we print out our list, and I print out 0, did you know you can still get the individual characters? The first square bracket goes through the first level. The first level is the individual items over here. What did I say about strings earlier? Strings are a list of characters. So you can imagine each of these characters here as their own individual item or element. Now, how do we change this to reflect that? Well, we can add another square bracket over here to specify the position of the item in this position. What do you think this will output? This outputs O, because we're getting the first item of the shop list and then the first character of the first item. If I put 2, 3 here, what do you think we'll get? We get N, because we get 2, the second item, followed by the 0, 1, 2, 3, the third item of our second item. So you can think of it as sub-levels, where the next sub-level you're going to have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 0, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. 0, 3 is N. 1, 1 is A. 2, 5 is E. And this is what these square brackets represent. Thank you for watching this tutorial. I hope you found it helpful.